And welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to Midday News on Global Television. Live from the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Jumai Manson. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now the news in full. A voter getting accredited to vote at polling unit 006 at Deniji Adele, Lagos Island on Saturday. Voting has commenced at polling unit 006 St. Stephen's Nursery and Primary School at Deniji Adele, Lagos Island, where Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is expected to cast his vote. The voting set to elect chairman and councillors for the local government areas began at the polling unit at 8 a.m. The immediate past national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, has congratulated Governor Monday Okpebolo of Edo State on his victory at the Supreme Court, which affirms his election as the duly elected governor of the state. In a statement signed by his chief press secretary, Edwin Olofu, Dr. Ganduje described the verdict as a landmark judgment and reaffirmation of the will of the good people of Edo State. The former chairman of the ruling APC stated that the verdict has once again demonstrated that judiciary remains the last hope of the common man and a critical pillar in the defense of democracy. He urged Governor Okpebolo to see the victory as a renewed opportunity to unite the people of Edo State, irrespective of political differences, and continue to deliver dividends of democracy to all. As the world marks Population Day, stakeholders across Nigeria are raising concern on the implications of population growth on national development. With Nigerians' population projected to surpass 400 million by 2050, conversions are shifting towards sustainability, planning and human capital investment. We'll bring you more details about report in our other bulletin. Vice President Kashim Shettima has refuted insinuations that his recent comment at a public function were directed at President Bola Ahmed Tinubu regarding the political crisis in Rivers State. Speaking through his spokesman Stanley Uwocha, the Vice President said it was gross misrepresentation to link his speech at the public presentation of the book OPL 245. The inside story of the $1.3 billion oil block authorized by former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Mohammed Adoke. Shettima stated that the remarks were taken out of context and misrepresented by certain media reports. Now, in another development, the New Nigerian People's Party has explained why it is not fielding candidates on Saturday's local government council election in Lagos State. Election being held across 20 local government areas and 37 local council development areas in the state. Speaking to newsmen, the NNPP National Publicity Secretary Ogoni Olaposi described the move as regrettable but necessary, citing limited options available to the party at the time. He further explained that the Independent National Electoral Commission's official records worsened the situation. Senate has appealed to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to approve 200 million naira as compensation for the family of 2-year-old Ivan Omohuria, who was killed by operators of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, during a raid in Asaba, Delta State. Topsy Gimba covered the plenary and now tells us more.
The upper legislative chamber also directed the agency to cover all medical expenses for Ivan's younger brother, 1-year-old Romon Shele, who suffered a serious eye injury in the same incident. The Senate condemned the actions of the NDL officers, describing their conduct as reckless and unprofessional. Speaking during the plenary, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Neda Emaswen, stressed the need for justice and proper support for the grieving family.
We have a 2-year-old that was inadvertently shot and killed by NDLA while they were carrying out some operations.
The incident sparked outrage in the chamber, with senators raising concerns over the growing misuse of force by security agencies across the country.
But for the killing of someone, officers need to know that the uniform is not a license to kill and go home and sleep with your own children.
In his ruling, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, citing the Senate standing rules, said the Senate cannot entertain any petition seeking grants or public funds unless it is accompanied by the President's approval.
We can't accept this in Nigeria, where we give you uniform, we pay you, and then you go and kill Nigerians that you are supposed to protect. So I subscribe that this family be paid this amount of compensation.
The Senate's appeal for compensation is contingent upon the President's approval, aligning with the regulatory frameworks governing public expenditure. Topsy Gimba, reporting for Global Television News.
House of Representatives Subcommittee on the Protection of Critical National Assets had dismissed corruption allegations against the National Electricity Liability Management Company made by the Association of Public Policy Analysts. The Association of Public Policy Analysts, through its president, Prince Will Okorie, had accused the Nigerian Electricity Liability Management Company of financial mismanagement and questioned its continued existence 12 years after the privatization of the Power Holding Company of Nigeria, PHCN. Anette Patrick has details.
At a public hearing, the committee chairman, Honorable Dabo Ismail, confirmed that an investigation was launched and verified that the Nigerian Electricity Liability Management Company, NELCO, remains legally backed by the Nigerian Electricity Act 2023, which mandates it to manage PHCN's remaining assets and liabilities. On the allegation that NELCO spent 94 million naira on a 5-day retreat, Managing Director Mojini Oluwa Dekaluk Thomas defended the expenditure, explaining it covered flights, accommodation, feeding and logistics for 25 participants, including senior government officials. The committee reviewed the documents and deemed the spending justifiable. Ismail also dismissed that Association for Public Policy Analysis APPA's claim that NELCO purchased an office in the north, stating no such evidence was found.
The only thing we can do as Parliament is to request for whether she have followed due process or not. And what is the due process? She cannot approve anything for herself. She have supervising ministry, the FEC is there, and she have given us the documents that gave her the go-ahead for them to purchase a permanent office. And that is what we're able to establish on this.
And then went to the Honourable Minister, who's the chairman of our board, went to the Federal Executive Council and got the approval of Mr. President for us to purchase the property. So we have our FEC approval, we have BPP approval, we have board approval, and the property has been purchased, sir. So we do now have a permanent office. Thank you, sir.
The committee urged APPA to submit any further credible findings, assuring fair consideration in the interests of Nigerians. Annie Patrick, Global Television News.
Residents of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, are lamenting over the unprecedented hardship as individuals in the country are wondering what this is all about. Let us quickly know that tenants report staggering price increase in the housing sector as the cost of living has taken a new turn. Over now to Sadia Yakubu for more details.
The Nigerian capital, Abuja, once known for its affordable housing and well-planned districts, is now among the most expensive cities to live in West Africa. But what's driving these rent hikes? From high-rise apartments in the center of Abuja to modest flats in most areas, one thing is clear: rent and property prices have skyrocketed, rising by more than 100% in some areas in less than 2 years. Nigerians attribute the rent on inflation and naira devaluation, which have pushed the cost of building materials to record highs.
High cost of building materials in the market. A bag of cement was sold last 2 years for 4,500 and or even less, but now we are getting it for almost 10,000 naira. at least with that, you will see that the cost of building houses now in Abuja is very, very on the high side.
Now that things are very expensive, things are on the high side in the market, you get, like, it's okay, I just start building that property now and I'm going to buy cement. Cement is like, okay, on the high side, and then all these materials, building materials are high. But these properties, you've made gain because it has been there for ages. So now what's the main reason? I just want to understand, what is the main reason that landlords and caretaker are increasing the price?
There you have it, mixed reactions trailing the surge in affording rent in the nation's capital. The appeal is for the government to intervene, especially in the satellite towns for the citizenry. Sadia Yakubu, Global Television.
The House of Representatives Committee on Hydrological Services and Hydroelectric Power Producing Area Development Commission has called for a coordinated national response to the rising threat of floods across Nigeria. Chairman of the committee, Honorable Pascal Agbodike, says urgent action is needed, particularly in high-risk areas near major dams and flood-prone communities. Over now to Annette Pat. Details. We apologize. That report will be brought in our subsequent bulletin. You are watching the live broadcast of Midday News. When Midday News returns, Dangote says NNPC refineries may never work again. Details coming shortly, plus foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is Midday News on Global Television. Thank you for staying with us. In business now, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, has called for urgent adoption of ranching as a national policy, warning that open grazing is no longer sustainable in Nigeria's current security and food production landscape. At the National Summit on Food, Nutrition and Food Security held in Abuja, the Chief of Army Staff, represented by the Executive Director of Nigerian Army Farms and Ranches, Major General Olufemi Dare, urged the National Assembly to enact legislative banning open grazing and provide visible ranching alternatives across the country. Annette Patrick has details.
The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, who was represented by the Executive Director of the Nigerian Army Farms and Ranches, Major General Olufemi Dare, stressed that with full deployment of security agencies, it remains impossible to protect all farmlands nationwide. He therefore advocated for massive investment in ranching infrastructure, agricultural technology, and grassroots engagement to ensure food security.
The issue of open ground the National Assembly was called up with
to boost food production and ensure farmer safety. Assistant Commandant General Bisong Oga of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps called for better intelligence sharing and legislative support to address disputes over cattle routes, especially in conflict-prone areas of the Middle Belt and northern Nigeria.
So we need the support of the National Assembly to streamline the activities of herders and farmers, because everybody in the Middle Belt and the Northeast and Northwest believe that they are cattle routes. So the herders believe that it is their right to march along the cattle route, and these cattle routes have been encroached because of a shortage of farmland and population explosion. It is now becoming very difficult for us to restrict the farmers to where they're supposed to farm.
On the legislative front, Chairman of the House Committee on Nutrition and Food Security, Honorable Chike Okafo, reaffirmed the committee's commitment to securing Nigerians' food systems and ensuring the safety of farmers nationwide. He was joined by Honorable Tolulokpe Ige, Chairman of the Forum of the State's House Committee, Chairman on Nutrition and Food Security, who echoed the need for subnational collaboration in tackling food insecurity.
I recall when I started using security, police, and all that. I don't know where I got this idea from. I told them that we need a safe environment because of you uniformed men much more. Because when danger comes, you are the first target.
Stakeholders at the summit, however, agreed that solving Nigerians' food insecurity challenges requires coordinated national policies, improved security, and sustained investment in modern agricultural practices. Aniette Patrick, Global Television News.
President of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has doubted the possibility of the state-owned Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna refineries functioning again. Dangote stated this while hosting members of the Global CEO Africa from the Lagos Business School after a tour of the Dangote Petroleum Refinery in Lekki, Lagos. Dangote also stated that the refineries, which are under the management of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, had gulped up to $18 billion, yet have refused to work. Vice President Kashim Shettima has called for the urgent and coordinated effort to bridge Nigeria's skill gap, describing workforce development as a national priority. At the 6th National Council on Skills meeting held at the Presidential Villa, Shettima said a post-audit of skills training centers under various ministries, departments and agencies will create a centralized infrastructure, database and expose gaps of duplications in services. The government strategy aims to align technical education and vocational training with national development plans and the demands of a rapidly evolving economy. Meanwhile, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, Bayo Ojulari, says the company is considering selling some of its refineries as a grapple with challenges in their rehabilitation. Speaking in an interview with Bloomberg at the 9th OPEC International Seminar in Vienna, Austria, Ojulari said a strategic review of the company's refinery operations is underway and expected to be concluded before the end of the year. Ojulari attributed some of the setbacks to outdated infrastructure and underperforming technologies. On the foreign news now, Cameroon will hold presidential election on October 12, according to a decree signed by President Paul Biya. The vote will determine who will lead this cocoa and oil producing nation of nearly 30 million people for the next 7 years. Presidential candidates must submit their applications within 10 days of the Electoral College being convened, according to the Electoral Code. Biya, the world's oldest sitting head of state at 92, has been in power for more than 40 years, having assumed the presidency in 1982. He has not indicated whether he intends to seek. He cruised to victory with over 70% of vote in an election marred by irregularities and low turnout due to unrest, appetite and jihadist violence. A constitutional reform in 2008 removed the presidential term limit, allowing him to run for an indefinite number of terms. The upcoming election, however, could mark a turning point for a country that has only ever seen 2 presidents, one from the Christian South and one from the Muslim North. Executive Director United Nations Program on HIV and AIDS, Winnie Byanyima, has called on world governments to step up efforts aimed at driving prevention of AIDS and related illnesses. Speaking at an event in Johannesburg to mark the launch of the United Nations Agency's annual Global AIDS Report, which highlights the impact of major cuts to foreign aid, especially by the United States. Byanyima noted that the development has triggered a funding crisis that could reverse decades of hard-fought gains in the fight against AIDS. Over now to Mukhtar Kasim. He has the rest of the story.
Byanyima challenged governments across the world to ramp up efforts that focus on AIDS prevention beyond treatment and support for groups that have been adversely impacted by the scourge.
The message we have to governments is step up on prevention. Don't drop it. Don't focus just on treatment. Support social contracting of communities, of youth groups, of community groups to continue serving their people with prevention programs.
Winnie Byanyima, United Nations Under Secretary General. Byanyima, who doubles as the Under Secretary General of the United Nations, warned that the halt to United States foreign aid is a ticking time bomb that has left a significant gap in AIDS-focused funding.
Now, with this cut, taking away money suddenly, first of all, it raises the question of the quality of the relationship. You don't just walk away. You plan gradual transitions. Just the fact that a donor can walk away, one member can walk away with no notice, tells you that something was wrong in the relationship.
Winnie Byanyima, United Nations Under Secretary General. The UN Aid Agency said in a new report around 31.6 million people were on antiretroviral drugs in 2024, and deaths from AIDS-related illnesses had more than halved since 2010 to 630,000 that year. The Joint United Nations Programme on HIV and AIDS in April warned that a permanent discontinuance of United States President's emergency plan for AIDS relief, the massive efforts to fight HIV and AIDS, would lead to more than 6 million new infections and an additional 4.2 million AIDS-related deaths in the next 4 years. Mukhtar Kasim, reporting for Global TV News.
The United States Mission in Nigeria has said the recent reduction in visa validity for most Nigerian non-immigrants travelers is part of global security and technical review, not a political decision. Addressing widespread speculations, the mission explained in a statement on Facebook that the move is not linked to Nigeria's affiliation with BRICS, its position on third country deportees, or the introduction of e-visa policies. United States noted that the shortened validity period stems from an ongoing global review of the use of U.S. visas by other countries using technical and security benchmarks to safeguard United States immigration systems. In sports now, Napoli have turned down a formal offer of 70 million euros from Galatasaray for striker Victor Osimhen. Galatasaray submitted the bill earlier in the day, complete with bank documents to guarantee payment. However, Napoli President Aurelio De Laurentiis reportedly declined the proposal, insisting on a guaranteed 75 million euro fee for the Nigerian forward. The latest rejection marks another setback in Galatasaray's prolonged pursuit of the Super Eagles striker, with negotiations having dragged on for weeks. The development represents a shift from earlier reports suggesting the two clubs had reached a breakthrough in negotiations for Osimhen's 75 million euro transfer. Nigeria's women's cricket team has opened camp in Benin City ahead of the International Cricket Championship Women's T20 World Cup Africa qualifiers in Namibia. 22 players are in training for the Division 1 tournament, which starts August 28th. Meanwhile, the men's team is also preparing in Lagos for their qualifiers in Zimbabwe this September. Now that's it on Global TV Midday News. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @GlobalTVNG. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. Good afternoon.